unemployment in the age of AI? And will people be paid not to work? Okay, I first got interested in this topic because I saw something in the New York Times, April 4th, 2026. That's not too long ago, that economists are starting to rethink the threat to jobs that AI poses. And they quoted one woman, Molly Kinder. She's a senior fellow at the Brookings Institute. She said she no longer needs assistance. She doesn't need to hire any college grads. She doesn't need any college students to do her research for her. AI can do it all. And she said, if you have a job where you deal with people and you explain things, you're probably going to keep your job. But if you can do your job locked in a closet with a computer, ultimately you'll lose your job. And that got me thinking. So first of all, entry-level college graduates, they are in trouble now. And one woman, as you see here, she said she's gone on tens of interviews, and even when the employer says, I'll get in touch with you, they don't. And she feels like she's ghosted by the whole job economy. And this is what they said in a video.
23% of Harvard MBA students were jobless 3 months after graduating. Graduates from one of the most prestigious business schools in the world, with multiple degrees and supposed golden tickets to success, are struggling to find employment for over a year.
You know it's bad when 1 out of 4 people graduating from Harvard with their MBAs can't get a job.
Okay. So there's another account in PBS that said unemployment now from college grads, it doesn't matter what college you're from, is 5.8%. And it's the highest it's been since COVID in 2021. And the underemployment rate rose to 41.2% of college grads. And some companies are doing something about this. Like KPMG, a tax company, is hiring people at entry level, but they are giving them advanced work to do, much higher than what they used to, because they want that pipeline to exist. They want to be able to hire talented people from college and let them go to the top. There's got to be a route, but without that first level of employment, there's no pipeline. And it's not only college grads, but I'm talking about businesses in general. There's no such thing as billable hours anymore. I was in exporting with a family business a while ago, and we had a problem, and I called up a lawyer. The lawyer did some research, and he solved the problem. And he charged me $900. And I said, why are you charging me so much? And he said, because my billable hours, I spent 3 hours on this, $300 an hour, it's $900. So I settled with him, for something I don't remember. But now I know that he could find that in 1 second with AI, probably the information that I sought. And I probably wouldn't even call him because I could go to AI myself. So a ton of things are changing because of AI. And there is one video that's very powerful and very negative, that there could really be no jobs in a while. And they said, look at the military. Let's say AI could be in charge of a troop and make a strategy for winning a battle. You wouldn't need soldiers there because AI could also design the weapons to carry out this battle and win without any instance of it. And they said, even thinking of therapy. Nowadays, people go to AI for therapy, and they pay a whole lot less than they do with a real person. And in 1897, the famous artist Paul Gauguin made a painting. It's on the right here. And he said, where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? That's 1897. And he was out of a job at the time. He wasn't getting any money from his paintings. He was sick, and he was very despondent. He tried suicide, it didn't work, but he was really despondent, a lot because his paintings just weren't selling at that time. And they also made a video about this. It's pretty short, so I'd like to show it.
This is something that you really can start to slot in for a human worker. We can even measure directly, at least for remote work, create a whole new website with these specifications or create a new online dashboard and see how many of these can AI systems just automatically do. Right now, that fraction is relatively low. It's about 5% of all those tasks that AI can do all by itself, but this is growing very rapidly. Once this gets to 10% or 20 or 50%, then what are the companies going to do when they can either send this remote work to a human or they can send it to an AI system and have it back hours later for a 10th or a 100th of the price? Obviously, the human workers are going to be out of a job.
Anything you can do on a computer could be automated.
AI can replace people in lots of jobs. I don't think people have factored in enough the massive social disruption that will cause.
This deliberate creation of human replacements is going to be incredibly disruptive, and at maximum, there's going to be essentially no human work. Human labor value will fall to roughly zero. What sort of world is that? How do people make a living? Where do they have social power if their work, which is the main thing that most people have as a value to the economy, has no value anymore?
Okay, that's a very negative view of things. But Brendan said something else a few meetings ago, and he was right. There's something called Futurism. I don't think it's a magazine, must be a website. But they say that corporations are reeling from the huge costs of AI with no clear benefits. That means, the entry-level people might be at risk, but the senior people, they invested a huge amount of it in AI, and they're not getting economic benefits from it. And one of them is Uber COO Andrew McDonald, who said that he invested a fortune in AI related expenses and doesn't see the results in company productivity. I have other examples, but I won't go into them. But also, as I think Brendan said, Sam Altman, the COO of OpenAI, and Dario Amodei from Anthropic are scaling back their initial claims that there will be an AI job apocalypse. They're scaling it back because senior people are not that easy to replace with machines so far. And it's another way of looking at it. But whatever the case, thousands, if not millions of people are going to be unemployed in the near future and starting today. And who will pay people not to work? There are different strategies that are being used, and one of them is being started by Canada, Finland, Kenya, and Alaska, and this is one man talking about it.
So Canada's Senate is one step closer to national basic income. Bill S-206, introduced May 28th, just passed second reading June 4th, and now heads for committee in the Senate. The bill would require the finance minister to build a national framework for a guaranteed livable basic income, meaning anyone 17 plus in Canada could receive it. The key rules are, number one, the income has to be set regionally to cover food, housing, and transit. No job or training required. Can't cut other supports like disability or housing assistance. If it does pass, the minister will have about a year to table and publish this framework in Parliament. And then annual reports to track results start rolling out. Personally, I think it's a little bit extreme. I believe in bootstrapping your way to success, but let me know what you guys think in the comments.
So some countries are thinking, and they're also talking about in America, of basic income, $2,000 a person from the time you're 17 up, $2,000 a month to live on, and at least you'll get people buying things. But when you think about it, in New York City, $2,000 a month in Manhattan won't even pay your rent. So, but this is one idea that's being floated in a lot of countries. There's another idea that Sam Altman has. Hold on. Universal basic wealth. And he thinks that people should become wealthy even if they're unemployed. And this is what he says.
And most of that value is accruing to the cluster owners, us, just so that I'm not dodging the question here. And then I think society will very quickly say, okay, we got to have some new economic model where we share that and distribute that to people. I used to be really excited about things like UBI. I still am excited, like universal basic income, where you just give everybody money. I still am excited about that, but I think people really need agency. Like they really need to feel like they have a voice in governing the future and deciding where things go. And I think if you just say, okay, AI is going to do everything, and then everybody gets like a dividend from that, it's not going to feel good. And I don't think it actually would be good for people. So I think we need to find a way where we're not just distributing money or wealth. I don't just want like a check every month. What I would want is like an ownership share in whatever the AI creates, so that I feel like I'm participating in this thing that's going to compound and get more valuable over time. So I like universal basic wealth better than universal basic income. And I think I don't like basic either. I want like universal extreme wealth for everybody. But even then, I think what people really want is the agency to co-create the future together. And in a world where it's like the AI is mostly coming up with the new scientific inventions, at least we've got to still have humans like invent the new culture and have that be a very distributed thing. A crazy idea, but in the spirit of crazy ideas, is that if the world can generate like 8 quintillion tokens per year, let's say the world can generate 20 quintillion tokens per year.
Tokens of
each word generated by an AI, just making up a huge number here. We'll say 12 of those go to the normal capitalistic system, but if those 8 quintillion tokens are going to get divided up equally among 8 billion people. So everybody gets 1 trillion tokens. And that's your kind of universal basic wealth globally. And people can sell those tokens. If I don't need mine, I can sell them to you. We could pool ours together for some like new art project we want to do. But instead of just like getting a check, everybody on Earth is getting a slice of the world's AI capacity. And then we're letting the like massively distributed human ingenuity and creativity and economic engine do its thing.
If you understand what he means, I personally don't understand how a token from a computer can buy groceries in the store, but he's a smart guy, and maybe, you have an opinion about it too. But I don't see it working. But in Japan now, they are paying the old people to sit by a window and not work, and they're getting paid. So that's the start of paying people not to work. And as an example, Sergey Brin, who started Google, he thought he would take time off. He had the money and just enjoy himself. And this is what he said. He couldn't do it.
I actually retired like a month before COVID hit. And it was like the worst decision. I had this vision that I was going to sit in cafes and study physics, which was my passion at the time. And that didn't work because there were no more cafes. I was just kind of stewing and kind of felt myself spiraling, kind of not being sharp. And then I was like, I got to get back to the office, which at the time was closed. But, after a number of months, we started to have some folks going to the office, and I started to do that occasionally, and then started spending more and more time on what later became called Gemini, which is super exciting. And to be able to have that technical, creative outlet, I think that's very rewarding, as opposed to if I'd stayed retired. I think that would have been a big mistake. So I actually retired.
Sorry. So even Sergey Brin couldn't think of a way of just taking it easy. And of course, when he started to work, he thought of Gemini. Okay. Sorry. There is one man, Tom Blayu. He's a motivational speaker, and he thinks he has the answer to everything. And I just want you to hear a second of it, and you'll see what I mean.
All right, now that we've got a detailed map of where the job landscape is headed as AI takes over the world, let's put it all together into a playbook of how to move forward well. So welcome to part 4, the playbook for winning in the age of AI.
Okay, I won't go play this anymore, but he thinks that if you don't have a job, you can create your own AI startup, which Hallie's daughter is trying to do, or get assets, or start your own business like JP Morgan did, or Jeff Bezos. He said, if you don't have a job now, just start a business like Jeff Bezos did. And that's his solution for everything. By the way, he's a multimillionaire because he invented a health bar with no sugar. So that's how he made his millions, and he thinks we can all do it in our own way. But the New York Times is doing something else. and it's very laudable and interesting. But the writers threatened to strike, and the New York Times talked to them. There was no strike, and there's no real settlement, but they are in talks, and there's an agreement. It's not written in stone, but it's an agreement that writers, of course, can use AI. We all do. It's a great tool. But they can use it to analyze data. They can use it to help write article headlines and summaries. They can use it to translate. But AI can't be in charge of their writing. The writers have to be in charge. And I think that's what all companies have to do, to learn how to use AI as a tool and not have AI run the company. But it's a tough thing. And, as my husband said, who knows if the writers are really not using AI to write their things. I hope not. And their writing is so superb, I almost don't care. So that's it. And I'd like to throw this open to discussion. Do you think there's a sector of work that only humans can do? How should society distribute wealth when machines create most of it? Or how can society pay people not to work? And what would you do in a world where you didn't need a job to survive? So does anyone want to talk about that?
Yeah, I just want to start off.
Great.
Thank you. My son is an accountant, and he works for a small accounting firm. And they've been giving him, he's been in accounting for several years, so he's not like a intern. And they give him some stuff to do, and some of it is, you really have to, it gets deep into accounting for taxes and everything and for corporation work. And he uses AI, and he has found that sometimes AI is right and sometimes AI is wrong. And he was even, his coworkers even told him which AI agents to use that are the best. And he did that. And they still didn't get it 100% correct. So I told him, ask the questions differently. Don't let AI do the work for you. Ask the questions differently. So this way, it gives you background information that you can then apply to certain tax laws and decide for yourself which one should be applied and how. And he has found that that works a lot better, and that his boss is seeing the productivity shoot all the way up, and he's taking the same amount of time. It's just that the productivity is shooting all the way up, and that's a big issue. But he has told me time and time again, AI is not the answer for everything. I, however, think that AI is very good in certain things. It can check if you use the right AI agent, for example. If you want to know something about a public company, it can check everything that is registered under that company and tell you things that maybe you have been digging for but couldn't find. So in some ways, AI is good. The guy who was frustrated, right? Sergey Brin was frustrated. He actually went back to work. Neurologically speaking, if you don't push yourself to do things, you're going to have cognitive function that's going to go down more quickly because you don't need to push yourself. If you're not pushing yourself neurologically, your cognitive function is going to go down much more quickly. And then where is your quality of life?
I just want to say that millions of college graduates are not getting work. And if they don't have rich parents, what do they do? That's just one example, but that's already millions of people around the world, not just in America. How can we deal with that? I don't have the answer. Does anyone else have an answer? Hallie?
Instead of garbage, we like to recycle. So AI in, AI out. Bottom line, we are, all of us, dealing with a surfeit of information that is being compiled without sufficient scrutiny and protection of content, of source, and of utilization. Example, I was recently at a Humans in AI event, which I'll say was hosted by Celia. And you can see Luma for more events. If you look up Connect, you'll find things. But when we were in a small group, someone said, well, what about ChatGPT for medical doctors? So I enrolled, and it had 35 million plus articles. If any of you has ever considered the source when a doctor says information is researched and you're going for, or maybe you've been in a study and it says inclusion and exclusion, then that means that unless you fit into a narrow bandwidth by gender, race, age, or any number of other demographics and medical histories, you might be not, or the study might have only gone on for 6 months instead of for the 10 years that you've been using a medicine, or a procedure that you're looking into, like knee injections, goes up and down in terms of who says what, even taking coffee or drinking wine, right? So if the information is in any way limited, skewed, biased, or otherwise not encompassing your interests, your needs, and your human life reality, it might as well not be retrieved. So it is a limit to how far we can get with the information nowadays, and everyone relying on it and saying, but AI said so, is a danger.
Yes, but I am saying just one little thing. College grads are not getting jobs. How do you get them to get money? They have to live.
I don't have an answer to your question. I don't think a lot of people do. I liked your presentation a lot, despite it being depressing as hell. I think it was probably the single most depressing presentation out of every NYACC meeting I've ever attended. I don't know if that's, I don't mean that to be disparaging, but just to be honest with you. Will you be sharing the links to the videos with Brendan or Asa so I could actually watch the videos in full?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
That's Jerry speaking, Dina.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Dina, I thank you for, I think this was really a great presentation. Not that its news was great necessarily, but I think that I think we share, like that key question you're zeroing in on is like hugely important. And the possible outcomes of there being no solution to it are really dark, and so I hear that as that aspect of it as well. So I do think that the solution, whether it's a minimum income or whether it's wealth sharing, whatever form it takes, that's going to be a process like your report included, that various countries are beginning to pass laws and look for solutions or find solutions to these problems. And it's vitally important that these answers are found before massive numbers of people lose their rent, lose their places to live. The speed of this whole development is so blindingly fast, and the people who are, I hate to say it, profiting from it, they have, the oligarchs, the people who control these countries, have incredible influence both over the American government, and they also have influence over media, so that the process or the solution is going to come through a political process that is going to reflect, at least hopefully in the United States, the will of the people. But if the will of the people don't understand this issue, this whole area of artificial intelligence and all the different manifestations of it, they're not going to be able to pressure sufficiently the representatives who are going to be the ones that forge the laws and then pass them. I think that the questions that Dina, the points that Dina made in the presentation and the questions that she's brought up are critical. I do want to comment as a retiree for now 9 years that I belong to a small segment of the world's population that has a decent pension, and I'm free to use my life force, my life energy, in whatever way I wish. And I don't have a shortage of things to do, or I don't lack for a sense of purpose.
Great. That's a good point.
So I think that, that there is, if a way to distribute the benefits of AI can be distributed sufficiently well, people may find new ways to find purpose and meaning in their lives. Right. We could see the growth of various forms of human creativity expressing itself. One last little point, that one of the things that is most pressing is the question of superintelligence and the possibility of humans losing control over AI. There is this one area that doesn't intersect with employment, which was Dina's theme, but the need to find a way to make sure that AI is safe for humanity is another critical topic that we need to keep in mind, because if AI becomes, as some of its promoters believe, a sentient being that becomes powerful enough to take over the world and then decides that humans are just surplus waste to get rid of, that's another part of this picture that we need to keep in mind. Thanks.
I think the most important thing, though, is that some wealth is going to have to be redistributed, but how? And I didn't understand Altman's method of points or whatever, in the computer system, but they're starting to think about it, and hopefully it'll be on time. Some nations are doing some things like 2,000 a month, but Altman's idea of distributing wealth, they have to think of something, but I don't think he has it yet. And I love what you said. People don't understand the problem, that wealth has got to be redistributed. They don't. And I don't really understand it either, but something will have to be done soon.
Yeah, something's going to have to be done.
Yeah. But the truth is, AI can do things that college graduates used to be the only ones to do it. And I know someone who's very, very rich now, and she said she started out on a basic level doing spreadsheets. And that's how she learned to go up the economic ladder. But now you don't need to hire a student intern or a college grad to do spreadsheets. AI does it. So how do you get basic level, and then how do they go up the rungs? She went up the rungs, but she started at the bottom, and now you don't need the bottom because of AI. And that's her point. She's a friend of mine.
Dina,
Yeah.
let me just say, what's wrong with learning on your own?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're not getting hired.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't have an engineering degree. I don't have a science degree. I don't have an electrical degree. And yet I've designed systems, built them, repair them. We put education at a level where unless you achieve certain levels, okay, you're not capable. That's not true. All right. We have late bloomers. We have people that can learn on their own. We have people who are very inventive. And we have to be able to not only promote them, but also give them the opportunity to showcase what they have. Like what was it Haley said,
Haley, yes.
It's I go to a lot of these press conferences, And I have to give them credit, okay? When I started going to these press conferences 3, 4 times a year to look at new products, uh, I would say simple things to them, all right? That's a beautiful logo, but what are you selling? Or another one is, what is your business plan for selling the product? Now they're listening to me. But that's what they don't teach in the schools.
Could I jump in for a moment?
Yeah.
With a that there is a significant difference. One of the aspects of how AI is being used is that AI takes two forms. One is as a tool, which could be used for research or for doing, like enabling things to be done, like a film editor using AI to help find video clips and what order they're in, kind of thing. In other words, AI can be an amazing tool for all sorts of various things. Okay, I just want to finish my point that there's a whole new branch of AI that are called agentic or agents. And what that means is when AI can itself perform, in other words, if it's being used for research, a human being that is doing something uses the byproduct of the AI in their work. But agents, like one, you can hire an AI to be an agent and to actually do things for you. Like, let's say you want to book a trip, and you tell the agentic AI that you want to visit starting in Los Angeles, you want to go to San Francisco, Chicago, Miami, and New York. And I want this trip to take place over 2 weeks. And I want you to book all the hotels and buy all my plane tickets. Well, that certainly replaces all of the people who you would have had to interact with, like the agents and the booking agents and all this. In other words, AI sometimes replaces people in their jobs. And as agents proliferate, one individual could actually, if they're rich enough, can control enough compute to replace 500 or 1,000 people. One of the groups of people that promote the AI, the moonshot people, they say they're waiting for the first trillionaire who is a company of one, where they have figured out how to use agentic AI to do everything for their company in all departments, from accounting to design to production to everything. And I think that is a distinction that is something useful to keep in mind in terms of understanding to what extent AI will replace people as opposed to magnify their work efforts. So that was the point I wanted to introduce, Hank.
No. I agree with you with that, John. I do agree with you.
While AI has eliminated many entry-level jobs, companies like Microsoft have scaled back their investments because AI hasn't resulted in much more productivity in higher-level jobs. AI is here to stay, but I hope we learn to use it as a tool and not let AI control us.